My name is Will Rivera, and this is a video review of Stephen Fried's Appetite for America. Fred Harvey and the business of civilizing the Wild West, one meal at a time.
Number 49, she's the only one that'll sound that way on the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe.
We all know the story of the Industrial Revolution and how the steam-powered locomotive forever altered the facade of a fledgling nation. Not only is it chronicled in our history books, but it's even infused in our childhood games. So why have Fred and Ford Harvey failed to garner even an honorable mention after influencing the most affluent members of our history books? Stephen Fried's Appetite for America justly provides that mention, and for many such as myself, that introduction. Fred Harvey, a man driven by his childhood financial woes, was ambitious with acute business acumen. While restaurants flourished in France, the young America was heavily influenced by a British culture that still considered public dining uncivilized. It was interesting to read about the successful implementation of marketing strategies in the late 1800s, which are still being taught in classrooms today. Fred Harvey was able to identify a market void. His previous business successes afforded him the opportunity to travel to New York, where he witnessed an evolution of sophistication and the delectable delight of a Delmonico steak. In a move that we have been fortunate enough to witness in our own lifetime by the late Steve Jobs, Harvey identified an existing niche market that he would be able to emulate and extrapolate upon while improving it and making it his own. He was determined to get railroad rich by leveraging the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad. His target market was an unsophisticated new world to which he would introduce gentlemanly manner, a sophisticated palate, while ending culinary indignities. The Fred Harvey ascension to prominence was powered by perfection as much as it was by the technological advances of the locomotive. Fred's business prowess is noteworthy. He aptly negotiated favorable deals to position himself for a market takeover. Ahead of his time, he implemented the 4 P's of marketing. Fred Harvey brought an invigorating product to the market by melding menu, service, and ambiance. He introduced new and exciting menus that oftentimes caused confusion. A patron who was accustomed to eating overdone beef was served his first tenderloin rare and didn't know whether to eat it or brand it. He secured the ultimate experience in service by jumping from moving trains to perform routine inspections before trains came to a halt and customers arrived. If even one piece of Fred Harvey silverware was out of place, look out. Fred Harvey hit it on the head when it came to services marketing. His services were intangible. Although many a patron desired his Harvey girls and he was created for supplying wives to frontiersmen, his services were inseparable. The meals by itself would have been satisfying enough, but it was the complete experience of presentation and delivery that Harvey prided himself upon. Perishability. Fred held his managers accountable for tracking inventory to ensure that the railroad patrons always got what they wanted, especially those fine cigars. Variability. Harvey set a precedent for standardization amongst his chain by mandating a prerequisite training for would-be employees who would receive a 6-month trial tenure upon completion. Buyer involvement. Harvey ensured that customers were fully immersed in the experience. The staff was trained to turn the average crank into a staunch advocate, even going the extra step to teach unsophisticated patrons about food such as pompano. After all, Harvey was educating while servicing the Wild West. Ambiance. Before a patron walked through the door, he or she would be entranced by the unmistakable aroma of a perfectly calculated, freshly brewed cup of coffee. Upon entering the establishment, they would be greeted by the prettiest workforce known to man, the Harvey girls. Promotion and branding. Fred Harvey was a branding genius. Simply naming the company Fred Harvey, a moniker that loyal son Ford managed for more than Fred himself. He rebranded Santa Fe Depot Hotel and Eating House to the more elegant appellation, the Clifton. Everything related to the business remained emblazoned with the words, "Your host is Fred Harvey." Being catered to by Fred Harvey meant that you were sophisticated. It became a status symbol. Simply put, the Harvey name became synonymous with the best of dining and hospitality. Freed credits Fred Harvey as perhaps the inventor of large-scale centralized purchasing. This allowed the restaurant chains to keep prices low and margins high while expanding to over 25 hotels and almost 100 restaurants. Fred Harvey was ahead of his time in many ways. He exemplified all of the organizational behavior characteristics required to be successful in a marketplace during technological shift. Teamwork, autonomy, and creativity are the very same characteristics required for success in today and tomorrow's workforce. Teamwork. Fred Harvey was ran and operated by a team so strong it was like a family. Full trust was bestowed upon his protege Dave and his son Ford. Autonomy. He promoted autonomy by enabling his employees to inject new life and vision into Fred Harvey. He allowed Tom Gable to implement his idea of the Harvey Girl, which became a Fred Harvey staple. Additionally, all promotions were made from within. This kept morale high. Creativity. He urged Bill Phillips to be creative, giving him and other top trusted chefs control of the menu. The same creative control was later granted to Coulter and Schweitzer. Overall, I would have to say Appetite for America makes for an interesting read. Stephen Fried cleverly weaved in history lessons that serve as a fine timeline for the story of Fred Harvey. He successfully infuses a who's who of name-drop cameos and backplot anecdotes of famous Fred Harvey patrons.
Do you hear that whistle?